Hello, everybody, and welcome. All thanks to LD Mobile. This is NBL Overtime. Plenty to get into. Free agency list. We're getting close to players being able to sign, re-sign, or possibly go somewhere else. A fair bit going up in Cairns, Sydney as well. Some good things happening. But, boys, we welcome you, Liam Santa Maria, Homicide, and, of course, our very special guest, because the last 24 or so hours has been a little bit disappointing for all fans. Doesn't matter if you're a South East Melbourne Phoenix fan, United, Breakers, whoever you might have supported over the history of the NBL. We are going to be sad to see Tai Wesley no longer doing his thing. He's announced his retirement, effective immediately for all the right reasons, but he has joined us in the retirement shirt straight up. He's straight into it. Tai, as we welcome you back to NBL Overtime, before anyone else says it, and we all echo these sentiments, congratulations on a wonderful career, and thank you for leaving us with so many great memories.
Thank you. That means a lot. It's been the NBL has been so good to me, my career, my family, and I wouldn't want to spend my career anywhere else.
This surprised, I'm going to talk for myself here, this surprised me a little bit when the announcement was made, but you spoke about, obviously, on the NBL.com.au article, talking about the fact that, quarantine and family obviously being the most important thing. How long have you been sort of mulling this decision over the last couple of, what has been a weird couple of months?
Probably the last 3-4 weeks, seriously talking about it with my wife. And then everything kind of just kept getting weirder. Dates kept getting pushed back. And then, one night I just felt like maybe I should be done. Maybe this should be the time when we step away. And I felt, I felt nervous about it. I felt anxious. I feared this day for a long time, but, when it came down to telling them and signing the termination contract, it all felt, it felt right for this time.
Tai, would you have retired right now if it weren't for COVID?
Absolutely not. I would definitely I'd be planning my revenge. I had a crappy year last year. I'd be ready to assault the whole league and destroy some people in the post. But, this coronavirus, I think, is the biggest factor. But, I just had a third baby as well. We bought a house. That would be hard to uproot my family. But I would 100% be coming back if it weren't for coronavirus.
I'm shocked. I love covering you, man. You were one of my favorite players in the league. Your energy, your passion, just how consistently on a daily basis, game in, game out, came with the effort, the attitude, and the game to back it up. I'm like a fan right now. Like, I really don't believe, you're not coming back. I think, I just think that, you're really going to come back. I know how competitive you are, and I know you didn't have the year that you usually had last year due to injury, and you were planning for your comeback. So it's disappointing to hear that you hung them up. But I know you did it for all the right reasons.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I feel like you guys always gave me a fair shake, maybe when I didn't deserve it or whatnot, but you always treated me right, and I appreciate that. I've seen the league go from almost being done to what it is now, which is crazy, and it's been a wild ride. From not making playoffs to winning 2 championships, losing in the grand final. It's been awesome.
Tai, you mentioned before the weeks that you've been thinking about it, having those conversations with your wife. Take us inside, how difficult a decision it's been for you.
Well, let me explain to you what kind of conversations we were having. Mm-hmm. Hun, we got to go back. The money's good. Let's go back. No, we need to stay. No, we should go back. And so it was me trying to convince her the whole time, and finally I lost. But it's a hard thing, man. This was my passion. I loved it. I loved the fans. I loved playing in front of Perth. Who didn't like me. I loved every part of it. I love getting to know new players every year, building relationships with those guys, with my coaches. I have a great relationship with a lot of the coaches throughout the league. I just felt at home in Australia and at home in that league, and I had pride in that league. People try to talk crap about my league, and I'd want to fight them, or they'd come in the league, they'd be a new player in the league, and they say, "Oh, this league's weak," or "It's this or that." I say, "No, you can leave. You don't like it. There's the door. Get out of here."
Looking back on what has been an illustrious career, you mentioned the championships, you mentioned the individual honours all the way, but there's always a turning point in an athlete's career where they adopt that attitude, where it's like, you know what, I'm protective of my league, but I'm also one of the big dogs in the league. For you, when was that time? When was it like you went from, hey, I'm in the league, this is kind of cool, to I'm one of the best players in it? Do you remember?
Yeah, I definitely remember. It's so I moved from New Zealand to Melbourne United. I had a really crappy year under Dean Demopoulos. Was ready to hang it up after that year, and then he left, and I had one more year on my contract. And Dean Vickerman came in, gave me that starting. Well, I had to earn that starting spot at the 4 spot, and once I earned that, and I mean, you look at the players I had with me. I had Casper. I had Josh Boone, I had Chris Golding, I had Casey Prather. I had some killers on my team, and to be able to perform the way I did, then I said, okay, I'm the man too, like, and we're gonna do this. So I think, putting that squad together and being an integral piece on that lineup, then I knew that I was like, okay, anybody in the post can get this work.
And that's a fact. And that is 100% a fact, because that's when you got the name Grown Man Business.
Yes, sir.
That's when you got the name, because there was times where, you needed to have the ball to bail the team out, to put the backpack on and get wins. Because a lot of times it was really like, give the ball to Casper. Casper's going to do this. Casper's going to do that. And guess what? It wasn't. It was Tai Wesley, the point forward, making plays making point guard plays at that power forward. So you definitely earned that right and earned the respect.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. I mean, and I credit a lot to Dean Vickerman, who let me have some leash, make some mistakes, trying to be a point forward, and then drawing up plays where, or even our guards sometimes like, hey, we got to throw it in. We got to get to the ball. And I'm like, yo, let's go. Let me get a bucket real quick and keep that scoreboard ticking over for our team.
Tai, was that the best off season you had? I remember arriving at the Blitz in wherever it was, Traralgon, I think maybe. And I was like, whoa. Because as you say, the talk, I mean, the expectation was that Dave Anderson was probably going to be the starting 4 on that team. But you turned up to preseason that year in incredible shape, able to do everything that you wanted. And it was the season you were most dominant in the post. And yet you were probably, your lightest, I think, in that season. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Yep. So I didn't have much of an off season that year. I think I was home for 6 weeks at the most. That was my whole off season. So I didn't have time to get fat and put on my Aloha shirt and go to Hawaii and sit on the beach like I'm doing, So yeah, I didn't have, and I was younger, right now I go play pickup once or twice a week and I come on, I feel like I've been hit by a train, the body hurts.
And you said before, were you legitimately thinking of hanging him up after that Dean Demopoulos season?
Yeah. So if Dean Demopoulos would have came back, I would have hung him up, or I would have asked out of my contract, tried to go on somewhere else. I couldn't do another year of just going back and forth with him every day on the practice court. And I wasn't playing, there was a couple games that I played 2 or 3 minutes a game. So it was a rough year.
The year that's just gone, incredibly frustrating. We touched on it a little bit earlier. Obviously injured. I think 8 points in the first 3 or 4 minutes on opening night, and then the hamstring twinge that we've spoken about. In fact, you were I think on our first ESPN show, Liam was overseas, and you obviously joined us on the panel for NBL Overtime, and you spoke about some of the frustration already creeping in there. When you look back at first year as a franchise, the injury plague that you had, unfortunately, how frustrating was it to be in your situation last year?
Oh, it was incredibly frustrating. There was days, I got the news that I was out and tears were running down my face because I wasn't able to play. And that year meant a lot because it was you only get one first, and it was the first year for that club. I felt like they gave me the contract that I wanted. I felt like they treated me right. So it hurt. And then not being able to come back and finish on, a season where I felt like I did well and did what I wanted to do and played to my ability. That'll always look back on that and be like, dang, that's unfortunate. But, I was able to choose when to go out. I still could have come back, and I chose when it was time for me. And so I feel good about that.
Just on that, and obviously your family is such a huge part of this. How is the body? We hear athletes in all sports around the world who get to a certain age and not able to do the simple things with their kids because their body went through so much as a pro athlete. How is your body now from doing the everyday activities, not necessarily hardcore pro athlete stuff?
So my body, what's nice is I'm completely injury free. I don't have any niggles. I do go play a couple times a week, like I said, and I do feel very sore after, but I was planning on getting, I had a personal trainer lined up. I wanted to come back like that year, that second year at Melbourne United. I want to come back in crazy shape. I was excited. I knew how important this year was, and I was very motivated, but unfortunately the circumstances didn't allow for that to happen.
Liam, you tweeted today as well. We watched on NBL Rewind around 6 weeks ago, I reckon, maybe a little longer. We sat down with Dean Vickerman and spoke about that game against OKC, which was a huge catalyst of the NBA v NBL and how well you played in that. Liam, you tweeted about it today and the numbers and how well, and you went head-to-head with Carmelo at certain times. Outside of, obviously, the championships, is that one of the most special games you were a part of in an NBL program?
Yeah. I looked up to Carmelo. I'd imitate him on the basketball court, shooting fadeaway jumpers. So, just playing that game, that was the first one for me. And I had so many family members there. We lost by 1. We had 2 shots to win. I mean, I still tell people that story. And I still tell people that Carmelo had to call Steven Adams over to double team me in the post. And I will forever. I'm never going to let that go.
And it was a goaltend, right?
Goaltend for sure. Yeah. So we won by 1, actually.
Tai, apart from the championships, obviously hoisting the trophy, that moment when the buzzer rings and you've won the title, and that game, what are some of the other moments or periods of time in your time in the NBL when you've had the most fun?
Oh, there's so many times to think of. Off-court stuff is great. I remember – you go to Illawarra, you get in the beach the second you get off the plane, and I'm with the breakers, and we're in the water swimming, and this huge stingray chases our whole team out of the water. We're all just screaming, running. Tom Abercrombie has his GoPro, gets a picture of this massive stingray. That was a great time. Spending 2 New Year's Eves in Cairns with 2 different teams, that was awesome. You stay up all night with your teammates and crack jokes. Mad Mondays are always a good time. Just the relationships I've formed are things that I cherish more than probably some of the basketball memories.
Biggest question. What now?
Well, I've been working on my golf swing. I've planted some crops in my backyard. I'm looking at being a mortgage loan officer right now. I'm studying to get licensed for that. I think that's something that will suit me well, being able to talk to people and make them feel comfortable. So we're looking down that. But I'd love to come back to basketball at some stage and teach some big guys some post moves.
Just on South East Melbourne Phoenix, before we let you go, we're going to discuss, obviously, and this is a big hole to fill for South East Melbourne. Of course, free agency not far away, but you'd be fairly confident looking and having some type of inside knowledge as into what Simon Mitchell, Tommy Greer and the crew were building, that this team's going to be able to, maybe not from a playoff sense, but build on what was a successful first year in the league.
Yeah. We got Mitch Creek, who's tough, who's a beast. He stays healthy the whole year. And we got guys around him. Guys like who am I thinking of? Sorry. Kyle Adnam, Dane Pinot, Adam Gibson. Who else is there right now? Kendall Stevens. And then I hope we bring back some familiar faces. Hopefully, John Robertson comes back. He looked good last night in the TBT. And then bring in a couple new guys and I think that's a great core. Having those guys, the experience of Gibbo and Kyle and Mitch are pretty good.
Hey, Cam,
go.
But before you wrap, I just want to make sure I don't want to miss this opportunity to echo what you and Corey were saying off the top, and thank you, Tai, for your time in the NBL. It's been so much fun watching you play, and I just have appreciated the way you've gone about it. You've as Corey's always said, you play with grown man intent. you bring it every single game, but you've also played with a big smile on your face, and that's on and off the floor, engaging. I'll never forget you talking about coming to my daughter's unicorn party and barking at the front row at Melbourne United's semi-final game 1 for the Breakers when you came in and just tore them apart. I just have just loved watching you play, man.
Thank you, Liam. Appreciate that, man. It really means a lot.
And I think, as we've all said, that is essentially the thoughts of almost I'd say every single NBL fan right now. So while it has been, disappointing 24 hours to hear the news, we totally understand it and have enjoyed every single moment of it, mate. Good luck to you and your family going forward, and no doubt we'll speak soon enough.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Always a pleasure.
Two-time champion Tai Wesley. And in that, boys, you did mention, of course, TBT, which is currently on, John Roberson and Scotty Machado teaming up, and they were very fun to watch yesterday.
If I told you the 2 guards for your team were going to have 36 between them on 14 of 20 shooting, I think you'd think your team's in pretty good shape. Well, guess what? That's exactly what these 2 guys, Roberson and Machado, have done for Armored Athlete. An Armored Athlete is up 10. It's a little bit precarious, though, Chris. I don't think Power of the Paw is out of this, but they have to figure out a way to stop these 2 guys, Roberson, and you see Machado right here going to the rim.
We know better looking back to as recently as the last.
Hashtag NBL Overtime to get involved. How fun is it having live basketball back? It's a little bit different TBT this year. They're in the hub, obviously, as the coronavirus continues to steamroll so much around the world. But it's still fun. Machado and Robertson on the same team. Casper Ware's going to pop up, as he always does each and every year. DJ Kennedy on an overseas elite team, which have been elite. I think they've won 4 of the last 5 TBTs. We are seeing NBL flavors all the way through it. If you haven't caught it yet, make sure you keep it locked on at NBL, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, NBL TV, all the news of NBL players past and present that feature all the news there. But watching those 2 boys go at it, Machado just setting the table and Robertson going whack when the game was hot in that first half. It was so fun to watch.
Yeah, they absolutely tore it up yesterday. TBT, always a good tournament. Always a strong NBL flavour, like you say, of players that have already been here and then players that we will soon see in the next coming years. Of course, as you mentioned, DJ Kennedy came across with massive pedigree from that tournament. What I find interesting about that tournament this year, apart from the strong NBL flavour, what an enormous showcase it is this year. I mean, the eyeballs that are on that thing right now, the eyeballs that saw what Machado and Robertson did yesterday, massive.
DJ Newell, Ramon Moore teaming up as well. Keith Benson probably won't be back in the NBL homicide, but it is good to see players we got to watch last year, even briefly for some of them.
Yeah, I mean, due to the pandemic, guys are going to go even harder for that money. So
yeah.
Some guys may not have an opportunity to earn this upcoming season, due to the pandemic. There's going to be limited jobs. There's certain leagues that won't even happen this season in certain parts of the world. So guys are competing even harder to get their fair share of that pie.
Mate, I was watching yesterday, Homicide. If this had been 20 years ago, 15 years ago, this is a tournament built for you. You would have really enjoyed this thing.
I think I would have definitely played in it, but I think 3x3 suits me better.
Oh,
I have a chance to dominate that more, just because the strength, physicality, and it's a quicker game. And it's literally just 6 people on the court. Mm-hmm. So I would have probably more catered towards playing that.
You would
have a chance to go to the Olympics.
For sure. I actually think one-on-one suits you best. Cam would find that out the hard way if that ever took place.
I don't need to score 1 basket. We're not going to go there again because I'm ready. I'm ready.
That's what would make it so rough. Is
what do you think I've been working out for? All right. Hey, let's talk about South.
Hey, before we move on from the TBT.
Yeah.
12 months from now.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see an NBL team in that tournament.
Okay, so hang on.
Team Kestelman, LK Group.
See, we raised this last year about an NBL team being at Summer League as well. The team could actually play Summer League and the TBT to get involved. I actually like the idea, Liam. I like it.
And I want to see some wheels in motion on that one for sure.
Okay, I like it. Hashtag NBL Overtime. You know what we should do? We should run a public vote on the show for the players to be in the team.
What has to happen is teams get voted in. So you get a team, you're not just automatically in. People have to vote your team in.
Well, we've got a whole country, so I reckon we'd be able to maybe sneak
It's true.
a good crew in. So
It's
it's a great
definitely
idea.
true.
Hey, just on that, obviously, Tai Wesley just joining us. Yeah, talking about John Robertson, free agency list. We'll get to that in a moment shortly. But with Tai Wesley now making this announcement and making the decision, how much does it change what Simon Mitchell, Tommy Greer and the crew will do around the lineup, keeping in mind only 2 imports? How much do you think it'll change what they were planning to do and what they now will do?
Me?
Yeah, sorry. I'll start with you, Liam.
Okay. It's an interesting one because you would think like he's a power forward, right? One of the best power forwards in the game, has been for a number of years. So you think, all right, well, they need to replace him. They need to replace him at power forward. Not so sure. I actually think that they were, and this is my understanding from behind the scenes, he was going to come off the bench this season, at least to begin with. He was talking about coming in with a revenge mindset. And that's because I think when they signed those 2 guys right off the bat, Tai Wesley and Mitch Creek, to multi-year deals, they thought, well, we've got our 3 and our 4 locked away, ready to go for the next couple of years. And then as time's gone by, they've realized, especially with Wesley out for most of last season, Creek's actually better in the NBL when he's playing at the 4 spot. And you're not asking him to step out and shoot threes and guard Tarico White and these guys. He used his speed to dominate power forwards. And so it does give them some extra flexibility. It's not, I mean, it's losing a big piece. I think the biggest factor about losing Tai Wesley is his ability to slide into the 5 and play as an undersized 5, the smaller lineup. I think that worked really well for them at times. So they're going to need to look at replacing that. But he was an import. So it frees up an import spot. They're going to get an import guard, of course, whether that's John Robertson or someone else. But whether they replace him with an import 5, an import 3, it's going to be interesting to see.
Homicide, I'll roll this by you. Import 1, Glidden, still unconfirmed, but if that was the case, at 2, an import high-scoring wing at the 4, Mitch Creek, and Dane Pinot as a starting 5. With that bench we've touched on, is that a 5, a core unit, which can be competitive and have a real crack at an NBL championship?
I think that's the way to go. What you just said.
Look, just on that, thank you for being so thorough. I think the thing is...
I mean, you broke it down.
Yeah, no, true. That's a good point. You're right. I've outsmarted myself again. I think, we've spoken about this. I think Dane Pinot's deserved an opportunity to be the starting 5. And I think Mitch Creek, I know injuries slowed him down in the second little bit of the year, but his first 6 weeks, 2 months of the NBL year last year, he was, if not the MVP candidate, he was definitely in those top 3 or 4 players. And if you get a high-scoring wing, Glidden's there, and you've touched, Liam, on the fact that you want to see Glidden be given at least a minimum 10 shots a game. And a point guard, maybe a little bit different to John Robertson, but setting the table just changes the way the team plays. And I think that, while it's not great to see Tai Wesley not there, I don't think it's going to kill their chances of having a really good NBL 21 year. Which seems weird considering how good Tai Wesley can be.
Right. I just think because they just had a bit of a double up there in that spot. But there is a bit of a shuffling of the decks that they need to manage because we've seen reports of Rubin Tarhyung linked to the South East Melbourne Phoenix. Now, what conversations have taken place with him and his management about his role coming into this year? You talk about an import wing. If they are going to bring someone in at that 3 spot and Tarhyung, say, perhaps comes off the bench, imagine a guy like DJ Newell in that spot, in that kind of lineup that you guys were talking about. Now, if you do that, you do need to bolster that front line. You know, whether that's a guy like an Angus Brandt or someone like that, it's a bit too shallow with what you've currently got. You need someone who can still come in and play a big load of minutes in that front line.
See, that's interesting, Homicide, because if they get Tarhyung in, those links really fired up in the last week or so. Cam Glidden the week before. Both players will be going there for more opportunity. Stuff that they missed out on, in particular Tarhyung in NBL 20. If they go there and they're all jam-packed and there's a log jam, then all of a sudden they're 1, fighting for positions again, not saying they can't win them, or 2, they're in the same situation, just a similar situation, just in a different state.
Let's just be glad we're not GMs. We don't have to figure that out. Good luck with that, Tommy.
hey, you're the man. I'm not ruling you out. You're the man that less than 12 months ago, when we were at the Blitz, put your hand up and said you wanted to be the not on location GM of the new Tasmanian team, but you wanted to still sit in Melbourne and be the GM. So you put your hand up. So
I would go to Tasmania. I would be on location.
Yeah. All right. From Phoenix to the Sydney Kings, because obviously a great deal of talk. We spoke to Will Weaver on NBL Overtime a couple of weeks ago, and Xavier Cooks is staying. Of course, opted out a couple of months ago when that situation was up around coronavirus, and of course we had so much of a discussion around it. But the Kings have done a great job of being able to hold on to him, which is great news. Again, not just for the Kings, but for Xavier Cooks, who really, Liam, we probably only got a glimpse of what he can actually do on court last year.
No, you're right. Awesome news announced today by the Kings. And that's, what is that, the third guy of the 5 that opted out? Hodgson's back, Bryce Cotton's back, and now Xavier Cooks is back. And I think depending on what happens with Jason Tate or who else they bring in, he's going to have a whole bunch more extra opportunities. He's going to be much more comfortable in the surroundings. Last year was like walking onto a moving treadmill for him, coming in halfway through the season like that to the team at the top of the table. So he comes in right from the very get-go. He's got his legs under him now after fully recovering from that injury. He's going to be enormous for them this season.
All right, Xavier Cooks has stayed. You mentioned the players who had opted out and 3 had already stayed. Nick Kay is not one of them, Homicide. How much does this change what they want to do?
First thing I want to say is, and I always say it, the window of opportunity. It closes faster than it opens. Nick Kay was the best power forward a year ago, 2 seasons ago, wins a championship. It's an opportunity to join the Boomers. Starts off shaky. By the end of the tour, World Cup, he was starting. The biggest game of his career was against Spain, 16-11. You can win in the situation and still lose. He lost in the game, but he won in that situation. It not only gave him the confidence to know he could play with well versus the best in the world, right? He can compete. He earned a position and he thrived. He comes back more confident, more experienced after the World Cup and the Boomers tour. Best power forward again, he and Jason Tate. And he wins another championship. It was only a matter of time where opportunities like this come. Another world-class league in one of the greatest ACB leagues. Come on, man. For years, it's been regarded as a premier league in Europe, right? So it's only right for this opportunity to come in. You know, he's a great dude. He just goes about his business. He puts his hard hat on in his lunch pail and puts up numbers. So, you know, congratulations and well done to him. But it's about seizing your moment, seizing the opportunity. You never know when it's going to come. And that's why you got to approach every game like it's your last, man. Because had he not put on how he did, this opportunity would not have been there. I do not believe that.
Yeah, great call. That whole campaign was a picture of him seizing opportunities. I feel like the biggest moment for him, that Spain game was huge. He had a few games in a row there that were massive. I feel like the biggest moment for him were the couple of days between game 1 and game 2 of the Australia-US games at Marvel. Because in game 2 in that win, he was massive in his minutes. And you'll remember in game 1, he was suspect. And the athleticism and the length of those guys were a problem for him. And people were like, oh, man, I can't believe you guys made that decision to put him in the team and then to give him minutes. Jonah Bolden's not there, so on and so forth. He came out in game 2 and said, nope, I belong at this level, took that confidence to the World Cup. And as you say, Corey, was awesome there. And it's a massive blow. Hey, can't sugarcoat. It's a massive blow for the league. He was the best local in the competition last year. There's no doubt about it. It's an even bigger blow to the Perth Wildcats.
What did I do?
He has been so important for them. Well, we talked about it last week. Yeah. I think they can't re-sign Tariko White now.
Yeah.
They got to go and get an import 4-5 who can get in and do some, not all, but some of what Nick Kay's been doing for them the last couple of seasons. What
if, and I want to preface this by suggesting that I don't believe him to be on the same level as Nick Kay, and I think it's going to be hard to do locally. But what if they were able to entice Cairns Bairstow to the Perth Wildcats? And yet again, I'm not going to suggest he's all NBL first team. Had a really good year a couple of years ago at Perth. Ended up at Lithuania last year. Didn't set the world on fire. I'm saying this without having any idea what his contract situation is. Of course, Lithuania, going through the coronavirus situation as much as we are, even possibly worse. What if they were able to get Cam Bairstow to the Wildcats? Does that fill a breach at all?
Yes, for sure. You know, they're going to need to talk to guys like that. They're going to need to look at all those options, of course. That's not Nick Kay, right?
No, but you're right. But then it opens up an opportunity to not have to sign an import for. And that is if it's Tarico White, who was 2 from 2, as Homicide tells us, and is huge in big moments. Like that, if that's what, to find someone who fills a little bit of the breach.
Yeah.
Not the full
and they'll
breach.
look at all those options. They'll look at Bairstow. They'll be, Duop Reith is training with them right now.
Yeah.
He's contracted to Serbia. They're going to be talking to him about, hey, what can we do to get you out of that? Is there a buyout involved? What do we got to do? They're going to talk to Angus Brandt if they're not already talking to Angus Brandt. Now they bring in maybe both those guys and say, hey, let's cover this by committee a little bit. Then maybe they can go about you would want to bring back Tarico White. Like Corey said, it's been a recipe for success. He's 2 for 2. That combination with Bryce Cotton is awesome. But they have a big problem on their hands now with no Nick Kay.
You know what, though, Homicide? I'll tell you this. And whatever happens, Perth are going to be okay. Their track record has proven on and off the court that they're able to get the job done. Imagine we wake up, free agency starts July 15. We'll get into that in a moment. We wake up someday next week and the news breaks that Bryce Cotton's been naturalised. And that just totally changes everything in what they do. They win continually because they're a great organisation. That's the type of thing that would then throw a really nice spanner in the works when it comes to putting this team together.
If I'm the Perth Wildcats right now, I would be focusing on getting naturalized. Calling whoever they need to call. Be like, look here. Look, that's how this thing works, man. Oh. It's not what you know, it's who you know. I'm calling the PM, whoever I got to call, to ensure those papers go through. And we got more time because the league don't start till December.
Got some time.
Plenty of time.
That is a game changer.
That's what I'm doing if I'm a GM.
Imagine Scotty Morrison's trying to put the country back together in the current situation we've got, and there's a phone call, Mr. Morrison, and it's Trevor Gleeson the other end of it. He's like, hey, ScoMo, I know you got a bit on, but can we fast-track Bryce Cotton's naturalised papers? We've got a couple of dudes we're looking at. We don't want to lose him, obviously. We don't want to lose an import spot. Yeah, sure. Just rubber stamp it.
You can guarantee it might not be ScoMo. It's not ScoMo, but you can guarantee those phone calls are taking place. And the thing about that, it's a game changer. We've spoken about that before. If it happens now, it's not over. No. They're the championship favourites again. He goes into a marquee spot. They've got 2 imports to work with. But with Nick Kay in the lineup and that happens, it's all over.
I agree.
But now the balance has kind of come back into the league a little bit.
Yeah. Hey, talking about, the teams that they beat last year, semi-final, Cairns announced, Noi, Djeric, Krslovic have all taken their options. So good news. We had Mike Kelly on about a month ago, and he spoke about, in a fairly positive way, about these guys wanting to stay and working towards it, and it's now all official.
Yeah, so they picked up the club options on Djeric and Krslovic. Krslovic had an under-the-radar, really good season last year for them. And the interesting thing is that the Kawhi Noi option was a mutual option. So yes, the Taipans themselves picked it up, but so did Kawhi Noi, which I think is important to mention. And then they didn't. Hang on. Yeah.
So they both said yes. We don't need both parties to say yes, do we?
You're doing a mutual option.
Okay.
Kawhi Noi says
mutual
no.
option. Okay.
Yeah. Negotiate, or I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah,
so on and so forth. After people saw what I could do last year, my value in the marketplace is higher than it was, but he's got kind of locked himself back in. They declined the option on Fisher and Blagojevic, so they're out there as free agents right now. But those guys, I think all 3 of those guys their arrows are pointed up and have opportunity to go bigger and better. It's been a bit of a bummer of an off season for Kawhi Noi. That would have been workouts, draft process, summer league, ability to showcase his talent on a big scale, but he hasn't been able to do that.
Liam, of course, and Homicide, you know, we know how Quat Noi feels because we'd be in Vegas right now at Summer League. So, like, you know, it's been disappointing for all of us. I'll tell you though, Homicide, obviously this Scotty Machado rumor has been around. I think Liam dropped it around February 7th that he's going to up and re-sign. He'll be here in Cairns again. And to see him TBT yesterday, how good, like, it's exciting, isn't it? Like, they're getting their pieces back. There's still obviously questions marks about if it's Newball or Oliver to go with that second spot. But the best thing about Cairns is, and we'll push the stadium issue to the side at the moment because that's something we'll worry about in a couple of months' time. But from an on-court perspective, they were so good last year and they're able to get their guys, their main guys, to be able to say, we want back in.
I mean, that's a great thing, and that's what it's about, you know, being able to get your core back. Guys know their roles. Guys are going to be, you know, they're 1 year more experience playing together. They love playing for each other. You know, like we all know, it's only 2 imports, so it's really key to see how it all plays out. Obviously, with Machado, you know, the leader, the guy, the decision maker, we know who he is. We know what he does for that team. But it's going to be real interesting. Who do you take? Cam Oliver or the defensive player of the year?
I'm Team Newball in this situation, as we touched on a month ago.
Wow.
I just think, you know, the league, Oliver's great. And this is something that a few people pointed out on Twitter. I'm not having a go at Oliver. He had a great year and I think surprised a lot of us. And how well he was and how great he was in the second half of the year. But Newball knows the league. He's tough. Defensive player of the year. You know, you can win games or lose games on wings, as we've touched on. And I really think that Newball's the guy that I'd be making sure. I'd almost say that if DJ Newball does not get picked up by Cairns, I think he'll find a job somewhere in the NBL.
It's going to be interesting, man. Cam Oliver.
It's a tough decision, though.
Nick K gone. Mm-hmm. Could Cam Oliver slide over as an import in Perth?
Well, what happened last offseason, Liam?
Damn.
Trevor Gleeson wanted him.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor Gleeson loves him, of course. And he tore him up.
Cam tore him up. This is it's going to be interesting to see, you know, how it all plays out. But, I mean, all 3 of those imports have had a sensational season. And it's very rare you see all 3 imports.
Yeah.
Not only a team gets them right with their chemistry as far as the team success is concerned, but for all 3 of them to have like the year that they had.
Yeah.
They put out, you know, that year was crazy. So, you know, either way, it's a win for all 3 of those inputs.
All right, the free agency list is out. Sorry, Liam, July 15 is when we can all start signing and all the rest of it. So are you hearing much?
It's been going on.
Fire away.
I think on Wednesday next week.
Hang on. Before you go any further, can I just,
ahead.
Homicide, I'm going to, remember a week ago when Liam just randomly threw Deng Adele's name into the mix and was like, oh, Illawarra should look at him. And then there has been reports in the last 3 or 4 days that Deng Adele is being looked at quite closely by the Illawarra Hawks. Now, there has been a rebuttal on the fact that Deng Adele right now doesn't have a great deal of interest of coming back to the NBL. But this is what happens in the next couple of minutes. Liam throws out a name that no one else has spoken about. Next thing you know, they're on the radar of a team. So fire away.
Obviously, Keanu Pinder is kind of in that mix.
There's another one.
We talked about him last week. I was going to say on Wednesday next week, there's going to be a whole bunch of deals that are done very, very, very quickly on Wednesday morning, just quietly. That's going to be just bang, bang, bang. The phones are going to be working. Hey, a guy I've mentioned, a returning college player, we've spoken about Jack White and the strong links with Melbourne United. We await to official confirmation of that. Talking about those guys, I've mentioned our guy Yanni Wetzel, and I've also spoken about Dejan Vasiljevic from the University of Miami, sharpshooter. Guy's gonna, if he comes into the NBL next season, a genuine, I think probably favorite for Rookie of the Year, depending on his landing spot. And my understanding is that he is in advanced talks, very advanced talks with the Sydney Kings. We know they lost Kevin Lish in recent times to retirement, and they are going to be looking for someone who can come in and get buckets in that spot. They've re-signed Sean Bruce in that backcourt. Dejan Vasiljevic is going to come into the NBL next season, I'm understanding. And I think the Sydney Kings right now lead that race to get him in.
Would you start him? Do you think he'll start at Sydney? If he was to sign that, do you think he'll start with the green light, which would be so fun to see?
Geez, he could. I mean, he really could. And he's going to – look, my understanding is he's going to he's looking for an opportunity to make sure that it's not so much about the money in year one for him coming out of college, because he's got good offers in Europe. it's about the opportunity. And it's about the situation, the ability to showcase. We've spoken about guys looking at what Jayshawn Tate did last season, the conversations he had with that coaching staff at the start of the year. This is what I'm looking to do. They said, this is the situation for you to do that. And it worked to perfection. Things that I'm starting to hear that's kind of what's playing out in the Harbour City.
Hey, you mentioned Pinder last week. Then there was reports linking him to Adelaide. And you'd also, I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, if we just had this conversation, you said that a month or so ago that Jack Salt and Adelaide were a possibility. If Pinder signs, does that count Salt out, who, of course, is injured currently? Or is there still a chance to have them both there? Because there'll be a deep front court if they all go there. Yeah,
it's already pretty deep, right? Daniel Johnson, Isaac Humphries, reports on Isaac Humphries, reports now on Keanu Pinder. Jack Salt's injury is worse than was first anticipated. Okay. And so my understanding is that's Jack Salt out. He's on the shelf right now, and that's Pinder in. Let's talk about the New Zealand Breakers. Corey had the blueprint. It kind of got erased a little bit when Isaac Fotu broke their hearts and signed back overseas. But my understanding is that the Tai Webster deal, if the ink is not on the paper, it might as well be.
Oh. Yeah, look at that smile.
Look at the smile. Yeah. And can I add on to that?
Come on, Liam.
They are very confident Scotty Hobson's going to be back on that.
Oh, yes. There it is. Listen.
The Breakers are up and about.
Let me tell you something, man. Who? Okay, Fotu, right? Huge loss, but okay. 2 out of the 3. 2 important pieces out of the 3 is done. Now, who can we get to replace Fotu?
Hang on.
Who can bring back Brandon Ashley?
I agree. Hang on, just quickly. Who can we?
The local.
But it doesn't actually need to be a local. You've got Finn Delaney. You've got Rob Lowe. That would have just been the cream on the absolute top with Isaac.
Right. But we know sometimes, sorry to cut you off, sometimes Finn gets in foul trouble. And Brandon gets in foul trouble. So we're going to need somebody consistent.
Yanni. No, come on, man.
I'm telling you.
You don't need an import one. You don't need an import one now.
No, I feel you, but I never saw Yanni play. That's why I was laughing, because you always high on him.
I'm telling you, they would have won the national championship.
You've got Finn Delaney at the 4, Brandon Ashley start at the 5, maybe Rob Lowe start at the 5. Rob Lowe and Brandon Ashley.
Yeah, they're good. They're good at the 5.
Finn Delaney's going to have a monster year.
Yep, I believe it.
I've said it every year.
For the last 4.
But hey, you saw him in the second half of last season.
True.
As working beautifully with Scotty Hobson, just quietly. Didn't he add the 3-point shot in the last 12 months, Finn Delaney? He came back and was knocking that thing down. He's going to have a monster year. Tom Abercrombie still doing very good. He was 50, 40, 90 last season, Tom Abercrombie. He's the second guy in that club. Webster, Hobson, Abercrombie, Delaney, Lowe, Wetzel, and add Ashley. That I'm all in, and Shamir.
You know what I'm going to do?
Come on. And you got to bring the hype man back. You got to bring the assistant coach back.
Oh, he's back.
Hey, he is very influential in.
He is.
Everybody loves that guy.
That energy is contagious.
But also what he does behind the scenes, Corey. Working guys out, he is beloved in that group over there.
Man. Great work down there.
When the Breakers sign Yanni Wetzel, and if they don't, he signs somewhere else in the NBL, I'll do the following show in his jersey. And as an adult, I don't traditionally wear jerseys, but I will.
And the only way is up from the Cardis that you're rocking, Cam. So.
And secondly, obviously border restrictions right now are stopping us. But I tell you what, if they make the NBL Grand Final, so much on what Homicide's blueprint is, I think we're going to go NBL Overtime International. I think we've got to go to New Zealand for one of those big grand final games. I said it. All right. And anything else kicking around?
No, that backcourt is crazy.
It is.
That
are you not entertained?
Just as good as any two import backcourt. Let's be clear. They both can play out the country as imports. They both have, and you got the local backcourt. Come on, man. And Hodgson? Come on, fam. No weaknesses on that perimeter. Let's go.
This is really good news because Homicide's new segment is only moments away already. He's at 100. But before I let you loose, anything else kicking around before we obviously a week away?
Come on, are you not entertained?
I am entertained. Look at me. I'm keeping the energy. Keep it, fam.
We'll keep the rest up to sleep for now, Cam.
All right. How about, do we expect something from the Hawks big on July 15 or not? What do you think?
Actually, I'm a little worried about what's going on with the Hawks right now.
Okay.
I was expecting to hear bang, bang, bang. It's happening with all those youngsters. Spoke with Sam Froling during the week. Mm-hmm. I get the sense from him. It's very, very likely that he'll return.
Yep.
I'm starting to not necessarily feel that way about Angus Glover.
Okay.
Which is a concern. And Sunday Deck, to my understanding, is still very, very much undecided. I was hoping that by now it would have been bang, bang, bang. Those guys have all re-signed and we're off and running. But it hasn't quite been as efficient and easy as that.
Okay, cool. All right, Homicide, you debuted a new segment last week. It is called...
Oh, man. Couture. Okay, here we go. It's Corey's Couture Corner.
There we go.
Right.
Thank you.
Now, with this section right here, right? These guys, it's wintertime. This is just the lumberjack section right here. This is the style that they're going with, you know? Scruffy faces, boots. They're at a winery. They're in the outdoors. They're in a vineyard somewhere. Beautiful, I'm sure. And those are just the guys just relaxing during their off season. I like this look. It matches exactly the time of the year and where they're at. They're not overdoing it. They're just relaxing. I love that look.
Is Reece Vague in that photo? Because Reece Vague made a surprise, but very, very well-deserved appearance in last week's segment. He's not in there, is he?
He's not. Greg Hire is. Damian Martin.
Greg Hire's Instagram.
Look, you know, that's exactly how you should be looking in the wintertime at a winery.
Reece Vague just quickly is off to Japan. I'll just stage left.
There we go.
Is he on vacation or is he off like
No, Paul Hanaro's squad.
Oh, okay.
He's going to play.
Now you see again, the flannel shirt matches the season, you know, and every man needs to have a flannel. That's just uniform in your closet, you know, and you can see they're outdoors just relaxing, flexing, showing the flannel lumberjack look.
What else you got? Here we go.
Then we got Casper Ware.
Oh, yeah.
That's how you take it to, you know, you add a little bit of street style with it as well. Skinny jeans, extra long tee, trucker hat, flannel shirt. Nice necklace showing, and that's just, you know, the streetwear mixed in with the lumberjack outdoors look.
Okay.
All of these looks are official. Every man should have a flannel in their closet.
This is – hold up.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Hold on.
Let me tell you what's going on.
Oh, boy. The D-band.
So this was my first endorsement deal. It literally looks like a jockstrap if you wear it.
It
right?
does.
We can see that.
And it was a weird looking headband, but for me, I've never had an endorsement opportunity at that point. So I jumped on it and slid the headband kind of off to the side a little bit so it wasn't directly in the middle of my head where it looks like underwear or jockstrap. So for me, I also knew that, you know, I understood branding and marketing, and I knew, you know, people would laugh at it and all that, but you know what? It's a 2-page spread in Slam Magazine. I got the biggest page on it. So I knew I could use this potentially as an opportunity for another brand. I'm a guy that needed playground basketball to jumpstart my career. And I'm on a page with NBA champs and, you know, future Hall of Famers and Defensive Player of the Years and Six Man of the Years awards. So I then would use this as leverage. Like, look, just doesn't play street ball. He's one of the best. And he's marketing with NBA players. So that I would use it as leverage. Everybody don't have an opportunity to use NBA as leverage. So if you're smart enough and understand branding, opportunities will come if you execute it in a way that's fit for you.
Did you know you had the full page when you signed the deal, or did you open the Slam magazine and be like, whoa?
No, I mean, there was a bunch of ads and brands that came. So there was some brands where there was some pages in magazines like Slam back in the day, Bounce Magazine, Dime Magazine. I had individual ads that it was just me as well. So this just wasn't a one-off.
No, I feel you. But for this one, just a Ron Artest and Crawford, and those guys are all squished together on one side.
Yeah.
And then it's...
Now, I just opened up the magazine. I just knew, like, in my sector, what I was doing, you know, just because you're in the NBA don't mean you're going to get all of the light. I knew I was the best street ball player at that time. So you would want to profile me as well, even more, because I'm active in the summer even more. Most guys in the summer when they play NBA, what do? They chill. They relax with their family. You know what I'm saying? So I knew that although I was playing abroad, I'm also active in the summer. So a brand that's a small brand would rather use me more because NBA guys ain't going to do nothing in the summer. And you can't wear that headband in the NBA.
You know, do you still have any of the D-bands? Can we get Cam in a D-band?
I don't have any more of that. that was even pre-Mohawk. I had a small afro. Look at that.
You know who's not in that photo, Liam?
Talk to me.
Gary Neal.
Absent.
That's old news, man.
He's MIA.
Yo, let me tell y'all something. I could bring another NBA player name up, but
Ooh.
Feel free.
NBA champ, another one. Another NBA champ, but I won't. We're not going to go there.
All right, if you don't want to go there, fine. But I don't want to see this pop up on your Instagram in 2 days' time.
I won't do it. I won't do it in 2 days. But,
did you get any interaction with or feedback from Bryce from the Couture Corner last week? Did we get an?
No. I didn't hear anything.
And do we have last week? It was 3 fly guys and then 1 not so fly.
Yeah.
You've gone a little soft this week, or?
I think maybe the not so fly. The one that should have been funny was my D-band.
Okay.
I had to explain the branding with it.
Okay.
All right. It's time to get involved. Before we do get out of here, it is an anniversary of sorts, Liam, because it's essentially 12 months to the day since you and I were in a life, potentially, and very real life-threatening situation where we were sitting in a gym in Vegas just watching Zion Williamson and, of course, working our guts out 17 hours a day as part of NBL Overtime Summer League when a earthquake hit the stadium.
Right.
And because Liam and I had never really had much earthquake experience, everyone else bolted out of the joint, and Liam and I ran down courtside to try and make sure LeBron James and Floyd Mayweather were okay, and happened to bump into Xavier Cooks and Jack Salt at the same time and make sure they were okay as well. But yeah, 12 months
Honestly,
to the day, Liam. Unbelievable.
And that's nice. I'm not honestly. It's something I've tried to put out of my head, not because it was. I mean, it was a bit scary, right? Earthquake, the whole jumbotron's shaking and whatnot. But it was a very disappointing experience for, I think, both you and I, because you like to think that in the heat of a crisis moment, you will rise to the occasion and know exactly what to do. And that is not what happened for you. All right. We sat there paralyzed with fear and had no idea what to do and looked at each other and were way too slow to react.
It took us 20 seconds to realize it was actually an earthquake, and we were actually at the upper levels at the time. Of course, we then went out and had a couple of drinks, and then Paul George and Kawhi Leonard signed at the Clippers. We bumped into Paul George in the casino about an hour. It was a remarkable night, but one that we were lucky to get through.
It was all happening.
Yeah,
that's the cool thing about NBA Summer League and those events. Like, everybody's around. You'll see everybody who you normally wouldn't be able to see get up close and personal with, more or less. Everybody's just around.
Yeah, when Paul George said to Liam, you didn't have that scoop, did you? I was like, yeah, okay, Liam's doing pretty well for himself. All right, hashtag NBL Overtime. Just on that, Reece Vague going to play in Japan. You slipped that in just quietly, but he's on his way.
That's my understanding. Yeah, Paul Hanare, obviously coaching over there. I know Sean Dennis has been coaching over there for a while. And Vague's looking for more opportunity. He wants to play. Like, he's at the point in his career where he wants to play. Yeah. Has hardly played over there in Perth. It's been good for them. And has been he's a great guy amongst the team and whatnot, a really good culture guy. He can really – we've had a couple of snippets. One game in Brisbane, you might remember, where he came out, hit a bunch of shots, crucial shots that helped them get back into a game. And so he's going to go over to Japan, my understanding, and get some shots up and see if he can get his mojo going.
Love it. Boys,
Luck.
#NBL Overtime. Until next week. See ya.
Peace.